Well, good evening and welcome to our weekly news programme. This week on a Sunday evening at 6 pm, due to a total failure of communications at the Hepburn household on Saturday evening. So I do apologise that we are a day late, but it just proved that the show is going out live. As it does every week, and unfortunately the technology let us down yesterday, so I do apologise for that, and thank you for joining us either live on Sunday evening or catching up during the week. So the last week has seen the national coronavirus rate rise. Unfortunately, national statistics have risen to 14,000 testing positive in the last 24 hours. In fact, it may have gone up today because that was yesterday's figures. And a death rate of 87 people over that same 24-hour period, and 4,000 people in hospital. And that's up, just to put it in perspective, from 10,000 cases the week before on Saturday, 43 deaths and 400 in hospital. So some of those figures have doubled, and the rate of people in hospital is tenfold what it was the same time last week. A study by King's College London has revealed this last week that as well as the standard COVID-19 symptoms of temperature, persistent cough and loss of smell or taste, that most people will have earlier signs of COVID-19, which might include fatigue and headaches. And only 9% of people across all age groups are not getting these early signs. As long as we watch out for these symptoms early and we continue to socially distance, wash our hands frequently and wear our face coverings, we'll hopefully keep the virus under control. Whilst we have been some positive tests locally in the last week, we still remain one of the lowest levels in the country. Of course, we're waiting for what the government announcements and restrictions will be made by the Prime Minister on Monday. And I'm sure you will all be wondering, like me, whether anything announced tomorrow will affect us down in South Dorset. Turning to our local situation, over the last week we've seen a significant increase in case numbers and case rates across Dorset and Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole council areas. Part of this, the local health protection agency are saying, is as a result of the issue with delay in reporting of national cases. However, that issue does not account for all of the increases that there have been locally. And that can see that there's rises in both the Dorset council area and the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole council area. And these rises are in line with the national picture. And the trend is concerning, and it's a reminder that we need to be vigilant. The last 7 days reported period have been 93 cases in Dorset council area and 265 in the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole area. If you look at the rate per 100,000 population, which is how they're marking it across the country, the rate in Dorset is 24.7 per 100,000 population, and 67 per 100,000 in the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole area, and the national average is 118.1. So you can see we're about a quarter or less than a quarter of the national average in Dorset, and long may that continue. Dorset Hospital released details on Friday to say that 11 patients were currently being treated in hospitals across the county for coronavirus. Several members of staff and students from Bincoln Valley Primary School in Littlemore, Manor Park First School in Dorchester are currently self-isolating after positive coronavirus cases. And this comes only a few days after cases were also reported at Radipole Primary School. Changing the subject completely. In a bizarre coincidence, a painting that somebody was trying to track down, which was sold at Dukes of Dorchester many years ago, has been tracked down to the Queen Mary II, which at the time was moored in Weymouth. The painting was called Expect Miracles 2 by Julie Ann Scott, and you can see it up on the screen. The painting was still for sale. It was for sale in the ship's on-board gallery, and the buyer, who is from Yeovil, has purchased it for £1,475 and will collect it later this month. Dorset Council, in partnership with Weymouth Town Council, are carrying out works to Weymouth Beach this coming week. This is partially due to the change in the beach profile caused by Storm Alex, and as part of routine management to prepare the beach for the winter period. Heavy plant will be used to move the sand, and the public are asked to stay a safe distance from all plant, as the beach will not actually be closed off. Moving on. Dorset Police are investigating a burglary at a home in Weymouth, and they're appealing for anyone with information to come forward. The burglary occurred at a home in Knightsdale Road between 10 p.m. on Tuesday the 22nd of September and 6:45 a.m. on Wednesday the 23rd of September. While the occupants were asleep upstairs, entry was gained and computers, a handbag and 2 purses were stolen. The bag is described as a Cath Kidston handbag with black and white floral design and 2 shoulder straps. Police Constable Laura Hobson of Weymouth Police said, "I'm appealing to anyone who witnessed any suspicious activity in the area on the night of the burglary, or who comes across any items matching the description of those stolen. If you do, please contact Dorset Police via 101, or if you want to do it anonymously, you can do it through Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Dorset Council has this week given the go-ahead to a £100 million project to protect Weymouth from flooding. It will be in 3 phases. The first phase, which will cost £47 million and will replace or heighten sections of the harbour walls, repair the Green Hill seawall and replace parts of the Pavilion Peninsula wall. The project is designed to be part of a plan that looks forward to protecting Weymouth from flood risk for the next 100 years. Goodness, what a plan. We often hear about things that lead us to believe that our environment and our seas are getting warmer. As far as the sea's concerned, we get sightings more often these days of seals and dolphins, and as a result, Dorset Wildlife have also recently reported 2 other visitors that could indicate climate change in the local area. Marine wardens for Dorset Wildlife Trust have reported sightings of furrowed crab and anemone shrimp, and this comes after another recent sighting of an invasive crab from the Pacific region, the Asian shore crab. Our first main story this evening is on another health issue. It's on radon gas. And I guess, like me, you probably didn't think that radon gas was an issue for us here in Dorset. And maybe it's more of an issue for those further down the coast on the Cornish Peninsula. Public Health England have now released an interactive map that we can look at to see how radon gas affects us. The map shows the levels of radioactive radon gas across the country and has local detailed information on Dorset. Radon is caused by the decay of small amounts of uranium that is found naturally in all rocks and soil, so it's everywhere across the country. High levels of radon can increase the risk of cancer, and the levels in rural areas are generally higher than in urban areas. However, Public Health England says that every building contains radon, although levels are generally very low. In our area, Portland is a high-risk area for radon, with up to 10% of homes at or above the action level, whereas Weymouth is one of the few places in Dorset which is predominantly low on the scale. If you look at the map, and we'll see it in the video in a minute, the darker the colour, the higher the risk of radon. Public Health England have produced a short video to explain about radon and how to use the map. And here we go.
Radon's everywhere. It's in the air we breathe, whether we're at home, in the office or out of doors. And because it's radioactive, every bit of radon we breathe in gives us a bit of radiation exposure. But fortunately, there's a lot we can do to find out about our radon exposure and to control it.
Radon is formed by the natural breakdown of uranium in the ground. and because it's a gas, it can escape up through the soil. Buildings act a bit like chimneys, and they can draw in the radon from the ground.
We get most of our radon exposure when we're indoors, whether at home or at work. And most buildings have got low levels, but some buildings have got high levels of radon, and that's why it's so important to think about radon in your home.
Because radon is a radioactive gas, we breathe it in, and it can damage the cells in our body, particularly the sensitive cells of the lungs. If this happens, it can cause lung cancer, and every year 1,000 people die from a radon-related lung cancer. That's why it's so important to take action.
Over the past 30 years, we've made radon measurements up and down the country in homes and workplaces. We've taken over 500,000 of those measurements, combined it with information about local geology to produce the radon map of the UK. That map shows us where high radon levels are more likely in villages, towns and cities.
The darker areas of the map show where the problem is most intense, so we can see that across England, the counties of the southwest have got quite a problem. Then there's a band of radon-affected areas going up through the country, taking in places like the Cotswolds, Northamptonshire, Lincolnshire, Derbyshire and right up through the Pennines, and parts of Scotland, including parts of Aberdeenshire, the Orkneys and Shetland. We have also found that much of Wales is affected by radon, as are some parts of Northern Ireland. When we think about measuring radiation, we think about Geiger counters clicking away, but with radon we use a simple detector like one of these. It's about the shape and size of a biscuit, and it's made of plastic. When you measure radon in your home, you put one of these in the living room and another in the bedroom, and then you just leave them for 3 months. Then you post them back to us. When we receive them, we analyse them and we work out how much radon there is in your home.
Most homes have low levels of radon, perhaps this much. If your home's got a high level of radon, maybe this much, that's 10 times more, we recommend you should do something about it. Over the years, we've found more than 50,000 homes where action was needed. So high radon levels aren't that unusual, and it's easy to get your radon fixed.
With radon, it's best to know what you're dealing with. That's why we want everybody to check the radon maps to see if they are at risk.
To find out more, visit our website or search online for UK radon.
So just to prove this programme is live, I've just realised that I was going to do this programme at 6 o'clock on Sunday, and I've started at 5, haven't I? So I'm going to have to do it again at 6 o'clock. So I will carry on anyway, and I'll do a repeat at 6 o'clock. I thought I got a bit organised a bit early tonight, but never mind. Moving on, our second story tonight. We've heard in previous weeks how original pandemic lockdown from April and the subsequent restrictions have affected our charities. And how, on average, charities have lost a lot of money. In fact, it's 48% of their voluntary income. That's the donations that you or I give them. But interestingly, 84% of charities have been responding in some way to the coronavirus pandemic and supporting their local communities. It doesn't really seem fair that we are relying on charities at this time, but not supporting them as much financially. This week, Janet Hall has been looking at how one charity, the Children's Society, has been affected and how we can support them and other charities as we move towards the Christmas season.
You'll remember how we've mentioned before on this broadcast how badly hit charities have been through the coronavirus. One of those badly hit is the Children's Society, whose work goes back to Victorian times. In the late 19th century, Edward Rudolph, a young Sunday school teacher and civil servant in South London, saw firsthand the brutal effects of poverty on the lives of children. When 2 young boys failed to turn up for his Sunday school, he went to look for them and was shocked to find them begging for food in the streets. Their father had died, leaving their mother struggling to bring up 7 children under the age of 11. And they were not alone. For if families in the Victorian times faced dire financial circumstances, they were either dependent on relations for support or lived in extreme hardship, or condemned to the local workhouse. Overcrowded and offering only minimal assistance, families placed in workhouses were often separated. The young boy's family faced this situation. Rudolph decided that the Church of England ought to lead the way to help them. And he crafted a plan for a children's home and gathered a group of supporters among business people and clergy. And on the 21st of March 1881, the group took part in the founding meeting of what would become known as the Children's Society. And the work still goes on. Right now in Britain, there are children and young people who feel scared, unloved and unable to cope. And the Children's Society works with these young people, step by step, for as long as it takes, because no child should feel alone. They help families trapped in debt, support young carers and runaways, and stop sexual exploitation. And this year, with coronavirus, the need for this help among young people is greater than ever. One way you can help charities this year is to buy your Christmas cards from them. Here is a little display of the Children's Society Christmas cards. We won't be able to sell them in church this year, so you will have to try and get them online, or perhaps you can approach me if you would like to help but don't have access to the internet. This means we won't be able to sell fair trade Christmas cards either. But do go down to the shop to see a wonderful selection of cards there. Please don't stop supporting our charities this Christmas. They need us more than ever.
Thank you very much, Janet. And as we said earlier, income to charities is down 48%. So that's really, really significant. So if you're sending Christmas cards this year and you don't normally send charity cards, maybe it's a good time to consider doing that and helping those charities at the same time as sending your friends and families their Christmas cards this year. Now, if you've just joined us, I know we're running an hour earlier than scheduled. That's because I'm super efficient and I looked at my clock and thought it was 6 o'clock and it was 5 o'clock, so I rushed up and very keen. So we'll be a bit like the BBC tonight. We'll have news again on the hour at 6 o'clock, just in case some people are joining us at 6. And I certainly didn't want to stop halfway through the programme that I'd started in case some of you had joined us. We move on to that part of the programme now where we celebrate birthdays and celebrations for the week ahead. And so I get to play my really dodgy jingle. Jingle was, as things are going, probably won't work at all this week, but let's see. Well, as I said, in true fashion, it didn't work properly, did it? We'll have to look for another jingle, won't we? Although when I did look for a jingle, that was one of the only ones I could find. So it is difficult to get hold of. Anyway, this week's birthdays, we're saying a very happy birthday to Brigitte Honeyborn, who is having her birthday on Wednesday. So we hope you have a really nice day on Wednesday, Brigitte. Don't forget, if you have a birthday or other special celebration, to get in touch with us and let us know. I will pop the details up on the screen. There we go. And we'll say happy birthday to you in a future programme. I thought for our third story tonight we would return to a subject which is very close to my heart, and I'm sure it is to yours, as I spend weekdays training and advising NHS staff, and of course since March, I'm sure you can imagine that a very large part of what I do has been to do with coronavirus and protection against coronavirus. I've recently become very concerned about the number of people who are wearing visors, that's the plastic things that come down in front of your face, in public places or on public transport, as opposed to face coverings, which is the sort of masks and material things that go over the mouth and nose. I've had a few conversations with individuals over the last week or so who've been wearing plastic visors, and it was quite obvious that they don't understand what visors are, and that they really don't offer much protection at all. Plastic visors do not come into the definition of face coverings in England as per the government regulations. They're not designed to either to protect your respiratory system, your mouth and nose, from what other people breathe out, or to stop what you breathe out getting airborne and travelling through the air towards other people. Visors are designed to stop the splash of fluids into the eyes or onto the surface of the face. They can, however, be used in hospitals very effectively together with high quality standard filtering face masks called FFP3 face masks. And with the face mask, it gives NHS staff high protection through splashes and things that they breathe in as well. To explain, when we breathe out, if we're only wearing a visor, the droplets we breathe out can travel out down through the gaps at the bottom of the visor, around the sides of the visor, and get airborne. And they can travel quite a few feet. And then other people can breathe them in. If we wear a face covering, even a homemade face covering, this will stop the droplets leaving our mouth and airway and travelling towards other people. And if we wear a high quality mask, like a surgical mask or ones that are designed to wear in hospitals, this also stops us breathing in the airborne droplets that other people breathe out. And that's particularly because these face coverings and masks go around over the mouth and nose and around the sides as well. The following videos demonstrate what happens when you breathe out wearing a visor as compared to when you breathe out wearing a face mask or covering. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I hope that video actually demonstrates that why the government asks us to wear face coverings, and it does show that the best face coverings that give the best protection when breathing out are the homemade stitched face coverings, and obviously the surgical masks that we can buy. My other plea comes as someone who has irreversible lung damage myself. I'd like to say to those that have respiratory issues, such as asthma, COPD, etc., that if you can tolerate a mask, do wear one. You are all, like me, very vulnerable to COVID-19, and if we get it, the outcome might not be so good. So don't just claim a medical exemption to be different and to stand out. Only claim it if your symptoms really make it difficult for you to breathe wearing a mask, because you, like me, really need to protect our respiratory system more than other people. The virus kills, and it's killing those with underlying health conditions, and those who are most at risk need to be more careful than others. So that's my plea to you. Moving on to something a bit happier. Our fourth story tonight is that within White Regis, our local schools are important to us. And keeping our children safe at school during coronavirus is particularly key. At our secondary school, All Saints Academy, this is meaning that they're having to space out the students at break times, and particularly when they're having their lunch. The Academy has recently purchased a number of sturdy picnic tables made from recycled plastics, and you can see some up on the screen now. This is to use for students for their lunches, which they're having outdoors where possible, subject to the weather, obviously. However, they only currently have enough seating for half the pupils with the money that they had available to spend. And they are looking with FASA, the Friends of All Saints, to raise money to double up the number of benches they've got. They're hoping that the local community in Wyke will be able to help them with that by raising some funds. If you think, as an ex-pupil of All Saints or as a member of the White Regis community, that you would like to help the students at All Saints with some benches, please do give me a ring on 778169 and I'll let you know how you can help. We obviously live in a wonderful area here on the south coast. We have a wonderful countryside, lots of open green areas, lovely seaside, and a fantastic coastline itself. Our coastline is of national and international importance and is famous the world over for fossil collecting, with great collecting areas in Kimmeridge, with, of course, their Etches Collection Museum over there, and also around Charmouth and Lyme Regis, and even up the Fleet Lagoon itself. Fossil collecting around Lyme Regis goes back a couple of hundred years, and I thought we would have a look back at one famous local fossil collector. I'm sure many of you will know that the coast around Dorset is one of the best in the country for fossils and significant in worldwide terms. I wonder how many of you, like me, have been on a fossil hunting trips at Lyme Regis, Kimmeridge, or even along the Fleet Lagoon itself. Of course, there's one really famous historic fossil collector who is known the world over. That's Mary Anning. Mary Anning was a pioneering paleontologist and fossil collector. Her lifetime was a constellation of firsts. Mary Anning was born in 1799 in Lyme Regis, Dorset. Lyme Regis is now obviously part of what is widely known as the Jurassic Coast, and discoveries are still being made to this day. The Anning family were religious dissenters, Protestants who separated from the Church of England, and very poor. Out of 9 or 10 children, only Mary and her brother Joseph survived to adulthood. Mary's father Richard was a cabinet maker and an amateur fossil collector. By the time she was 5 or 6, Mary was his fossil collecting sidekick, an otherwise unfathomable activity for Georgian girls. Richard taught his daughter how to look out for and clean the fossils they found on the beach, and often displayed and sold them from his shop. Like many women and girls in Lyme Regis at that time, Mary had little formal education. She was able to read, however, and taught herself geology and anatomy. Richard died suddenly in 1810 from tuberculosis and previous injuries. Joseph took up a post as apprentice upholsterer, and their mother Molly encouraged Mary to help pay off the family debts by selling her finds. Lyme Regis is especially rich in ammonites, which were then called Ammon's Horn, as well as belemnites, which were called Devil's Fingers. During the Napoleonic Wars, civilians were encouraged to holiday near home rather than abroad, so tourists flocked to seaside towns such as Lyme Regis. Around this time, fossil hunting was also gaining traction. This pastime was perfect for fashionable Georgians seeking to add to their cabinets of curiosities. Around 1811, when Mary was 12, Joseph found a strange-looking fossilized skull. Mary then searched for and painstakingly dug up the outline of its 5.2-metre-long skeleton. By the time she was done, several months later, everyone in town knew she had discovered what must have been a monster. Scientists thought this was a crocodile. At the time, most people assumed that unearthed, unrecognisable creatures had simply migrated to far-off lands. The mysterious specimen was studied and debated for years. It was eventually named Ichthyosaurus, or fish lizard, though we know now it was neither fish nor lizard, but a marine reptile. It lived 201 to 194 million years ago. In 1823, Mary was the first to discover the complete skeleton of a plesiosaurus, meaning near to reptile. So strange was the specimen, and so quickly had the news spread, that soon there were rumours that the fossil was a fake. George Cuvier himself disputed the find. A special meeting was scheduled at the Geological Society of London, though Mary was not invited. After lengthy debate, Cuvier admitted to his mistake. Despite her growing reputation for finding and identifying fossils, the scientific community was hesitant to recognise her work. Male scientists who frequently bought the fossils Mary would uncover, clean, prepare and identify, often did not credit her with discoveries in their scientific papers on their finds, even when writing about her groundbreaking Ichthyosaurus find. Even the Geological Society of London refused to admit her. In fact, they didn't admit women until 1904. In 1828, Mary uncovered a strange jumble of bones, this time with a long tail and wings. Once again, news of her discovery travelled fast. Scientists from London to Paris theorised on this unknown species of that most rare and curious of all reptiles. What she found were the first remains attributed to a Dimorphodon. It was the first pterosaur ever discovered outside Germany. The name pterodactyl was coined later. Unlike Ichthyosaurus and Plesiosaurus, pterosaurs had wings and were believed to be the largest ever flying animals. Mary continued to unearth fossil after fossil. She still sold her many finds, which increasingly fueled public interest in geology and paleontology. People flocked to fossil displays around the country. Even major museums struggled to keep up with demand. Mary died from breast cancer in 1847. She was only 47 years old and still in financial strain despite a lifetime of extraordinary scientific discoveries. Today, the Natural History Museum in London showcases several of Mary Annin's spectacular finds, including her ichthyosaur, plesiosaur and pterosaur. Much like they did 2 centuries ago, her fossils continue to captivate visitors from around the world. And of course, Mary's legacy lives on along the rugged Jurassic coast, now a UNESCO World Heritage Sites, where scientists, amateurs, adventurous children alike gather year-round to hunt for their next big find. There we go, a bit on Mary Anning, a famous fossil collector from Dorset, from Lyme Regis. We will return to Mary Anning before the end of the programme. You'll remember in a previous week's programme we heard about Lucy's generous donation of her long hair to the Little Prince's Trust. Now we have a special chance for you to help a little bit more with this charity, and I'm hopefully going to pop a picture up, but I can't find it. Oh, this I can. Here we go. Well, you've got a chance to help a bit more with this charity. A Hornby electric train set is being offered for sale to add to the amount already raised in sponsorship by Lucy. It's a Hornby R1039 Flying Scotsman train set, LNER Class A1. It was a gift to someone, and although opened, has never been used due to the fact that it takes a lot of space to use and a lack of space by the new owner. And has meant that it hasn't actually been put together and been able to use. So the LNER Class A1 462 locomotive and has classic teak coaches, and it's the iconic Flying Scotsman when it ran non-stop from London to Edinburgh in the summer seasons of the 1930s. The set comprises of the locomotive, some composite coaches, a brake coach, starter oval tracks, pack A and B, a layout with sidings, a wall transformer, train controller, clips, track mat, etc., etc., and a bonus box of some extra track as well. It costs quite a lot of money. In fact, many of these are being sold on eBay second hand for between £100 and £150 currently. And this is currently up for offer for £65. All money received will be sent to the charity, and if you'd like to add an extra donation, if you want to buy this as well, of course, that will be wonderful and gratefully received as well. If you're interested, please contact Jeff Hebburn on 01305 772205. So there we go, wonderful Flying Scotsman Hornby train set. If I had the space and the time, I think I would be doing that. I loved my train sets when I was much younger. So, looking to the week ahead now, first of all, we're going to think about the weather. The weather for the week ahead looks as if we're going to have a mostly dry week, other than Monday, when the chance of rain in the afternoon is high. I noticed the chart doesn't actually tie up with the commentary, but obviously the chart's updated since I programmed it up yesterday. Temperatures are now generally dropping, and I can certainly agree with that. And daytime temperatures this week will be around 13 centigrade on average. Sunday, today, Wednesday and Thursday seem to be the days where it's most likely we'll have some nice sunny spells. And of course, today has not been too bad at all. So that's the weather for the week ahead. Now we'll move on to traffic and travel. Drivers near Bedminster, if you're going the Bedminster way, you won't be pleased to know, but you'll be pleased I'm telling you about it, that the Bedminster Tunnel is closing for some urgent lighting works to be done on it, and there's a 42-mile diversion to bypass the 120-metre stretch of the roadworks through the tunnel. A section of the A3066 Tunnel Road near Bedminster will be shut for 3 nights to allow SSE, the power company, to replace the old light fittings and to fit new LED lights. The A Road, which will be shut either side of the tunnel, will be closed between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. on Wednesday, October the 14th until Friday, October the 16th. There is an official diversion route that is 42.2 miles and takes 1 hour and 5 minutes to follow. Yes, 1 hour and 5 minute diversion. Commercial Road in Weymouth faces further disruption in the weeks ahead from the 7th of October through to the 13th of November, while the work continues to remove the tram lines from the highway. You'll know that King Street was closed this week for 3 days whilst the lines were removed from the crossing across King Street. Temporary traffic lights and roadworks are still on Cold Harbour between School Hill and Harbour Hill near the new development until the 30th of October. There's no notified railway engineering works across this weekend or the week ahead on either South West trains or West Country, Great Western trains. What's on? Things that are coming up that might be of interest to you. Between the 24th and 31st of October, the Nothe Fort has various family Halloween activities. On the 1st of November at Weymouth Pavilion, the complete works of William Shakespeare. We've mentioned this a few times, but we're not quite there yet, and I thought you might appreciate being reminded, by Adam Long and Daniel Singer and Jess Winfield. All 37 plays in 97 minutes. Also on Sunday, the 1st of November, the Nothe Fort, Dorset Food and Drink will be having a pop-up at the Nothe Fort with their final mini market before Christmas, and that'll be from 11 o'clock till 4 on that day, Sunday the 1st of November. On the 2nd of November, we've mentioned this before as well, at Weymouth Pavilion, join Strictly Come Dancing's champion siblings Kevin and Joanne Clifton for an intimate show produced especially for a socially distanced audience. It's really great to hear all the things that are happening at Weymouth Pavilion, and I wish them well. We will be going back and visiting them to find out about their things that are happening over Christmas. So again, if you want tickets for that, do get in early. And on the 6th of November at Weymouth Pavilion, Genesis Connected is a tribute show celebrating the hits of Genesis and the biggest selling acts connected like Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins and Mike and the Mechanics. For more information on these events, go along either to the Pavilion or the Nothe Fort's websites. I was going to say tomorrow, All Saints Church is our morning service, but of course that was this morning, and we had some problems with the internet in church this morning, so we are going to rebroadcast this morning's service from church at 7 p.m. tonight. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to do it at 6 p.m. because I've done this programme an hour early. I will be doing the service at 7 p.m. and if you've joined us, I will be doing the news again at 6 p.m. because I started an hour early rather than being late. I don't know why. I looked at my clock and thought it was 6 o'clock, but it was 5 o'clock. So I rushed on and got the news going. But I will do it again at 6, at the top of the hour, just like the BBC and ITV. Of course, next week on Saturday will be our quiz as well. That'll be 7:30 on Saturday evening next week. And our news programme will be back at the proper time and its proper slot, hopefully, at 6 p.m. on Saturday night. Now, I haven't quite finished yet. We heard earlier about Mary Anning. And our last What's On event this week is to let you know this week on the 16th of October, a new film about Mary Anning is released. It's a romantic drama film written and directed by Francis Lee. The film is inspired by the life of British paleontologist Mary Anning, played by Kate Winslet, and centres on a romantic relationship between Anning and Charlotte Murchison, played by Cerise Ronan. The film is rated 15 as it has some adult themes. The principal photography was done all around Lyme Regis, and I thought before we finished tonight I would share the film trailer with you. The trailer is suitable for all audiences.
It was a sea lizard. 6 feet long. Days it took to dig it out, clean it. I was only 11 years old. It's in the British Museum. That one was special.
Miss Anning, I've often heard your reputation discussed in the Geographical Society in London.
Is there something you wanted, sir?
My wife, she hasn't been at all well of late. She suffers from melancholia. I want her to walk the shoreline with you, learn from you.
I'm not looking for an apprentice.
I would pay a premium for a private audience.
It's not easy work.
the water. What is it?
Cheap tourist fodder.
Beautiful.
It pleases me you struck up a friendship together.
What is it? Something? Nothing?
I don't want to go back to the life I had before you. What about my life?
So there we go. That's the film Ammonite, which is released this week, all filmed around Lyme Regis. And of course, we've had quite a few films created in Weymouth and Portland and along the south coast in the last few years. It's becoming a very common place for filming, obviously with the wonderful coastline that we have around. So finally to say, if you've got any local news stories, any events or anything coming up in the weeks ahead, or you've got a story that you think we should cover, or a news sort of magazine item, a bit like Mary Anning, do let us know, because we're always up for ideas. And so until next week, I'll say good night, although I will be back on the hour at 6 o'clock to do the programme again. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a good week ahead.